Hello, everybody. This is Dean Talks, and I am your host, Dean. And in this video, I will be talking about the gender pay gap, or basically the myth of the gender pay gap. Usually, gender pay gap relates to government employees, particularly state and local employees. Federal employees aren't under a union, but state and local employees are usually involved in are represented by a public employee union. So what the unions do, and many feminist and left organizations do, and a lot of politicians, is proclaim that there's a gender pay gap, but in reality, it's all a myth, because between two positions, either a man or woman could work, or if it's the same job, like a practitioner, doctor, is there really a pay gap in there between a male and a female doing it? I don't think so. Or is any two government employees, is there a pay gap in there? No. And on a lower end of the scale, in places like Walmart or Target, where there's lots of minimum wage employees, is there a pay gap between the males and the females? No, not on a general workforce. And it's not on a general labor force of government employees, such as on state or local levels, or even on a federal level for that matter. I doubt there's any gender pay gap. There might be a composite when you compile all the data all together and say overall males make more because maybe they hold more of the management positions, and you're putting that into your statistic, and then you could prove it that there's some sort of pay gap in there. But beyond that, man, between two relevant job positions of the same job, between a male and a female, there's no pay gap. Now, as far as what the real pay gap is between on government work is, for example, I went into the DMV, and what is the relative qualifications to be a government employee? And a lot of it's not more than a high school education at most. I don't even think, of course, many people with a college degree go in and do government work, but the qualifications for the actual job at hand require no more than a high school education. For example, I went to the DMV because I had to renew my driver's license. As soon as I walk in the door, one of the government employees asked me, and I believe she was a DMV technician, and she says, I tell her what I'm there for, and I need to renew my driver's license. She says, you need to here's this application, fill it out, and then bring it back to me. I bring back the filled out application. She looks it over to see if it's complete, and then gives me a number. The next, and tells me it's going to be a 2-hour wait. 4 hours later, I'm seeing another woman, because it's a crowded office and there's many people doing the same thing I'm doing, either renewing cars or getting driver's licenses. So I see the woman, and she looks up, she asks me for ID, and then she looks up my information and everything and makes sure everything's okay and everything, and then checks my eyesight and tells me it's $33, and I pay the money, and she gives me a receipt and tells me, you got 3 chances on it. You'll have to take the exam, just a written exam, not the driving exam, just a written exam. And she gives me the receipt and tells me I have 3 chances on the test. I go into the testing room, and it's about 4 o'clock, and the woman tells me this is the last test available because we close after 4. You have time to take one exam. I take the one exam, and I passed the driver's exam, because during the 4 hours I was waiting, I read through the driving manual that they provide for free in that office. Okay, so she does a printout. She gives me my temporary driver's license. She said the real driver's license will be coming in the mail. Okay, out of these 3 employees, it took more, I doubt it took any more than anyone having a high school education to do this job. Now, what's the difference between them and someone that works at Walmart, Target, Starbucks, McDonald's, or any of these other fast food places in qualifications, or maybe, or in qualifications? Now, maybe the woman, these 3 employees at the DMV had college degrees, but so do many people that are working these minimum wage jobs at Walmart or Target too. So what I'm trying to say in all of this is there's a pay gap, and it's an economic pay gap between public employees and many of these public positions and people that are working minimum wage jobs. Public employees make far more than people that are making minimum wage jobs for doing a job that required nothing more than a high school education or basic qualifications. But yet, a lot of them are making up around $70,000 a year, and that's $70,000 a year compared to what you're making on minimum wage. It's a huge economic income gap. Now, why are these jobs paying so much? Well, they're represented by a union. Union bargaining, the union will go into a bargaining situation with state and local politicians every 2 years, and it's usually about a 3% pay increase that they usually do it. So after so many years of this stuff, the pay on many of these jobs at the state and local level pay a lot more than minimum wage jobs, and it's the same thing with federal jobs. You might want to note that these same unions that do the union bargaining pump hundreds of millions of dollars into political campaigns every election, and that's why they're able to get all these pay increases. How many of these unions actually got behind the people that were protesting maybe a couple of years ago to bring the minimum wage up to $15 an hour? Well, some of the unions supported it, but the only reason why they supported it is because they had to save face on all the work on the public employee unions and how much more they're making in comparison to the minimum wage workers. If you're a public employee, you're making far more than $20 an hour. I can tell you that much right now. Many of them do, and maybe unless they're a janitor, but even the janitors make up around $17 to $18 an hour if they're a public employee. Try becoming a janitor at Walmart or something like that. You're not going to make anywhere near that. So, now, of course, we could point to billionaires or people in business. They make far more than either of these pay categories, but how many billionaires are there? And then they usually were in self-business to begin with, so I don't really think that really counts as far as coming in with an example like many of these politicians want to point to. When they point to that, they're really avoiding the real problem of the income pay gap that they have. They haven't raised a minimum wage in years. They have no intention of doing so. If the Democrats want to do it, all they're going to do is maybe raise it up another dollar at most, and it's still way under the poverty level. Now, many people on the right are opposed to it because they say the prices are going to cost more, and then we'll end up paying more for goods and services due to the raise in minimum wage. Okay, they do Walmart to be fair, Walmart and Target do pay a little bit more, better than minimum wage. I believe it's about $10 or $11 an hour, depending on what state you're in. But out in California here, it's about $10 or $11 an hour they pay it. But that's still very low wages for California, and I'm sure it's low wages for anywhere else in the country. So if they're not, unions spend absolutely no time trying to organize either a Walmart or a Target. But they'll spend all kinds of times organizing public employees, and they do this continually. To be fair about this, public employees got a wonderful retirement when they retire. They get a really nice pension, whereas anybody that could work 30 years at either a Target or a Walmart, my hat's off to you. And all you could look forward to, usually on a job like that, is Social Security. And the sad part about Social Security is Republicans are always trying to cut Social Security, and Democrats have no interest in really raising it. Maybe the only thing they've really tied it to is maybe a partial consumer price index, and that's about it. It's a sad situation. It's a sad situation, and now senior citizens, you might want to note, are making up some of the largest proportion of homeless people all across America now. And many of these homeless senior citizens had worked for years and years at minimum wage jobs and have nothing to look forward to. Unless politicians start addressing this issue, it's only going to get worse. And it is a big issue. And I do not have a solution to it, other than I think it's an unfair economic pay gap, and I think it has to be addressed at some point. Anyway, that's all I have to say in this video. Peace, everyone.